floor to Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Deputy Director, for being here today. I want to go to the PAL and think about the decision-making process that was going on with the January 5 decision when that was actually being made. And I want to ask you first, if you have a school board and a local law enforcement agency that have agreed to create a program that keeps violent felonies out of your database system, so there is no arrest for a violent felony, and we know that when your agents and call receivers are evaluating the threat assessment, when they're conducting that threat assessment of a tip, that information would be valuable. Is that correct?
Anytime, Congressman, anytime we're reviewing a tip or a lead about someone with concerning behaviors, yes, the more information we can get about that person, it certainly helps us establish what would be appropriate actions to investigate this first person.
So on the Mississippi tip, they issued a Guardian follow-up just based on a screenshot of someone who said they wanted to be a professional school shooter. Yet the tip that came in January has information about Cruz wanting to harm himself, and they know who the lady is that's providing the tip. She references ISIS, that he had threatened his mother with a rifle, that he had purchased several weapons, that he wanted to kill people and was going to explode, that he was mutilating small animals, and us in law enforcement, we know exactly what that leads to, and that the caller was concerned that Cruz might shoot up a school. Yet no Guardian investigation was opened on those items, and I put myself in that decision. But how could you? Because look, I don't believe that the individual that made that decision had evil intent. So I'm trying to figure out why would I make that decision? Why possibly could I make that decision? And I think in your opening statement, I think it might be in the very next paragraph, where the caller noted that Cruz was 18 years old but had the mental capacity of a 12 or 14-year-old, and she indicated that she was very concerned and had contacted the Parkland Police Department, the agency of jurisdiction for this Nicholas Cruz. And she wanted someone to look into this matter. Do you think that could have played into the decision of this individual to the supervisor who's making the decision that, maybe this is already being looked into by the Parkland Police Department?
Congressman, I do. I think that certainly contributed to the supervisory special agent's thought process about this. That's my understanding.
Right.
However, the call taker, I think there were some other things, one of which was there was no specificity on where this school is going to be, date, time, that type of thing. Right, wrong, or indifferent, my understanding is she focused on that, when in fact I would have preferred she focus on the behaviors that were laid out, because there's a kind of...
don't get me wrong, I'm in no way agreeing with the decision. I'm just trying in my own mind to figure out how she could have made that, the supervisor could have made that decision. But look, what I see here is more a personnel issue as opposed to a policy problem. I can't imagine that the policy is, if you have all these things, that you don't open a Guardian investigation. Would you agree with that?
Yes, Congressman, but we are refining some of our policies and our procedures because, quite frankly, when I listened to this call the day after the Parkland shooting, the evening after, my heart sunk.
How could you not? Yeah.
How could you not?
Exactly.
And what we're trying to ensure is that we remove the ability for one person as a call taker to make that decision that call should be elevated to that supervisory special agent and then require further actual investigation by the
let me close with this
special agent.
because my time is almost up. But I want to make it very clear that I think the issue here is a personnel problem, a personnel mistake. Because I don't think this supervisor had ill intent or the call taker. They made a bad decision, a very bad decision, I think, not to follow up really with Parkland Police Department to make sure.
Time has expired.